heartily welcome you to this magnificently glorious day. Today we celebrate the grand launching of EduCan International as an official test venue of OET, Occupational English Test, for healthcare professionals. We are sorry that our Honorable Minister is not well and he has sent his sincere apologies for not being here today. I'd like to express our heartiest gratitude to our special guest, Mr. Tom Keenan, Regional Director, OET, Mr. Ashish Bhushan, Regional Manager, OET, South Asia, Mr. Duncan McCullough, Second Secretary and Head of Economic Department at the Australian High Commission, who have managed their valuable time from their busy schedule to be with us. A heartiest welcome to all of you again. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now stand up with due respect to the national anthem. Mr. Shahin Reza, Managing Director, EduCan International, to share a few words with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Shahin Reza.
Thank you very much. Mr. Duncan McCullough, Second Secretary and Head of Economic Department at Australian High Commission to Bangladesh. Mr. Tom Keenan, Regional Director of OET Australia. My colleagues Ashish Bhushan and Mr. Mustafizur Rahman from Australian High Commission, government officials, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, friends from media, colleagues from Australian High Commission, OET and EduCan International. Assalamu alaikum and very good morning to all. On behalf of EduCan International and OET, it is an honor for me to welcome you all in this auspicious grand launching ceremony of EduCan International as an official test center of OET examination in Bangladesh. We are really grateful to our chief guest, Mr. Duncan McCullough, and to all of you for finding your valuable time to join us in this gracious event. EduCan International is absolutely delighted to be able to bring this internationally recognized OET examination for the healthcare professionals in Bangladesh. It has been already proved to be the trusted brand for the management of various international examinations, including Cambridge Assessment English under the University of Cambridge, Michigan Test of English under the University of Michigan. At EduCan, we are in a mission to create opportunities and change lives. I'm confident that OET exams offered through EduCan International will create more opportunities for our healthcare professionals in Bangladesh in the global context. In the recent months, it has been consistently highlighted at various occasions about the scope of Bangladeshi healthcare professionals to contribute in the international healthcare sector. I would like to share a few of those items with you so that we understand the scale of the opportunities around healthcare professional internationally. So I have shared some of the screenshot of the recent media coverage. On 26th May, the Honorable State Minister for Foreign Affairs mentioned that an opportunity is being created to send about 500,000 healthcare professionals to Europe. You can see that one of the leading Bangladeshi newspaper, the daily Ittefaq, they have published that news on 26th of May, and I'm sure EduCan and OET will be able to support with their English language proficiency test. Again, on 7 June, after a meeting between Mr. Salman F. Rahman, Honorable Advisor to the Prime Minister for Private Industry and Investment, and Her Excellency Sarah Cook, the newly appointed British High Commissioner to Bangladesh, Mr. Salman F. Rahman informed the media that United Kingdom is interested to recruit trained nurses from Bangladesh. Again, that was published in Manav Jamin on 7th of June, and I believe that initiative taken by EduCan International and OET will be able to support the demand in the United Kingdom for professional nurses. 14th June, an MOU was signed between Bangladesh and Switzerland in the presence of our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina during her recent visit to Switzerland. The objective of the MOU is to enable the skills capacity of Bangladesh, which would also widen the opportunities to export skilled workforce, specifically from the medical and IT sector, to Switzerland. Again, that was published in one of the leading English newspaper, the Business Standard, on 14 June. So all these above news in the recent months in the media involving the highest level of government authorities reflects the scale of opportunities and priority for our healthcare professionals to work in developed countries. I'm aware there is increasing demand for healthcare professionals in Australia and Canada as well. I feel it's time for Bangladeshi healthcare professionals to shine globally and make a significant contribution in our foreign currency earnings. EduCan International, in collaboration with OET, is fully committed to support our healthcare professionals to prove their English language proficiency to the world and demonstrate their suitability to work in those countries. With these few words, once again, I welcome you to the grand opening ceremony of EduCan International as an official examination center for OET in Bangladesh. And going forward, I look forward to working with you, meeting you, and so that we can all work together to support Bangladeshi professionals to enhance their global employability as well as opportunities for higher studies abroad. Thank you very much for being with us.
The galaxy of intellectuals and honorable guests, how lovely is this day. The scent in the air smells of warmth and everything precious and beautiful. We will now experience an informative presentation about OET by Mr. Tom Keenan, Regional Director, OET, and Mr. Ashish Bhushan, Regional Manager, OET South Asia. I request both of you to start the presentation. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Tom Keenan. I'm the Regional Director for Asia Pacific for OET. OET is the Occupational English Test, and we're headquartered in Melbourne, Australia, and having staff in a number of countries, including India, and I welcome our Regional Manager, Ashish Bhushan, who's based in Delhi. We're also having staff in the UK, the US, the Philippines, and across Australia. I'm very happy to be here today to talk to you about OET and to celebrate this wonderful occasion. So it is an extraordinary moment of collaboration and progress in the field of healthcare for Bangladesh. We gather here to celebrate a partnership that will connect Bangladeshi healthcare professionals with exceptional healthcare opportunities, both within Bangladesh and across international boundaries through our test, the Occupational English Test. The Occupational English Test is a test that is specific to healthcare professionals. The content used in our test is specific to doctors, it's specific to nurses. It's the sort of content that makes them feel comfortable when they're taking the test, and it prepares them for day one on the job, it prepares them for day 100, day 1000 on the job. So it's not just a test that prepares you for the necessary hurdles of getting a visa, of obtaining registration in another country. It really prepares you for your career. And that's where it is so different from other general academic English tests. It is a test that has been developed by the University of Melbourne in Australia, so it has its roots in the University of Melbourne in Australia, but also our ownership is with Cambridge University Press and Assessment. So there's a lot of history behind the building of the test, and we're very proud of that history and proud of helping people make that journey to Australia and to other countries to be involved in the healthcare profession. So today, I'm filled with a lot of pride and gratitude as we stand at the intersection of this initiative, made possible by the dedication of our partners. First and foremost, I extend my thanks to EduCan, who have graciously stepped forward to become our test venue in Bangladesh. And we can see that they do have a lot of experience, extensive experience in testing in Bangladesh. And their commitment to education and advancement of education has been instrumental in setting up this partnership. Moreover, I have to acknowledge the exceptional efforts of our friends at Austrade and the Australian High Commission through the Second Secretary, Mr Duncan McCulloch, and Austrade Director Mostafir Rahman. They've helped us, they've really coordinated and brought together all the stakeholders here today. That's through their efforts. So that's their efforts, their vision to form this alliance, which will help Bangladeshi healthcare professionals seek opportunities both here and abroad. And while the Honourable Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Mohammed Shahibuddin, is not able to be here with us today, we really do appreciate his willingness to support this event, and it emphasises the potential for the healthcare workforce to contribute to communities around the world. The fact that he was prepared to come here, unfortunately not. He's a last-minute exclusion, unfortunately. Now, proficiency in English is a crucial bridge that enables our healthcare practitioners to communicate effectively, collaborate seamlessly, and share knowledge across borders. Together, we're laying the foundations for a brighter future, one where health professionals can harness their skills and expertise to make a difference in the lives of countless individuals. So with that, I want to move into my presentation where I talk about the global supply and demand that we're experiencing at the moment and why it's so important that we have a venue like EduCan here in Bangladesh that can help fill that supply and demand overseas. Okay, so if you just bear with me. Okay, oh, this thing's moving a bit faster than I thought. So today I'll be giving you the first section, which is global supply and demand for health professionals, and then my colleague Ashish Bhushan will be doing sections through 2 until 6, okay? So I think what we know about the global supply of health professionals is that there's a lot of health professionals available, but the real challenge is finding health professionals who are English qualified in order to work overseas. And that's what we're trying to help do here in Bangladesh, is to prepare people to become those health professionals who are English qualified. So there's no shortage of jobs and no shortage of people, but there is a shortage of people who are English qualified to take on those jobs. And when we look at that projected shortfall, it is 18 million healthcare workers by 2030. And the lion's share of that shortfall is in East Asia and the Pacific, Europe and Central Asia. And we're talking about some very large numbers. So by 2030, you can see in East Asia and the Pacific, we've got a shortfall of 8 million people. So it's never been more important than now to start preparing people for careers in healthcare. And the whole idea of having foreign trained doctors and nurses and health professionals is one that's not unfamiliar. So in the country where I'm from, Australia, we have over 50% of our doctors coming from another background. So it's really normal for us to have a doctor from another culture, from another country. And Australia is a very multicultural country, and we're very accepting of people from other countries practicing in Australia. The same stands for nurses, and in Australia, where I'm from, it's very common to interact with nurses from South Asia, from Southeast Asia. That's quite normal for us. Sorry, just having technical difficulty with this.
Do that manually. Press.
Thank you. So, why do we need all of these healthcare workers in various countries? Well, COVID showed us, well, prior to COVID, we did have structural shortfalls in the provision of healthcare professionals, but during COVID, it exacerbated the situation. We saw a real shortage, and we saw people during COVID being very stressed and not willing to work in healthcare anymore, taking on less hours and exiting the industry early. In our countries, in Australia, in New Zealand, the UK and the US, we have an ageing population and an ageing workforce. So that creates two problems. We've got a lot of older people to look after, and we don't have as many young people coming through the system to look after those older people. What we do see, though, is in other countries, like India, there is a younger workforce there who can move to other countries and service those other countries and realise a dream. So whether that dream is to improve their situation financially or to improve their situation through permanent residency in another country, there is a dream for them to do that. And OET is part of that process. If you can move to the next slide, thank you. So in the UK, I'll go through it by country by country. In the UK, the NHS, is everyone familiar with the NHS? That's the National Health Service. They employ over 1.2 million people. 1 in 10 nursing posts are empty in the UK, and they're actively recruiting people to come to the UK. So the NHS, through recruiters, typically will offer the airfare of a healthcare professional, the English preparation, the English test, the visa, and the accommodation, at least the initial accommodation, and a job to work in the UK. So they're recruiting very aggressively for people to come and work in the UK. Next slide, please. Almost half of the new nurses in the UK are trained outside the UK, and their registrations are the highest since 1991. So they really need to up their workforce at the moment. They're at critical levels. In the US, we have 40% of US doctors who are aged over 65 and are looking at retiring soon. And nurses over the age of 50 are also looking at retiring. So the opportunities are certainly there in the US as well. Thank you. In Australia, we have similar shortfalls in nursing. By 2025, we see 100,000 nurses as our shortfall, and then by 2030, it's 123,000. So it's not improving in Australia. And if you look at stats from the Australian Medical Association, they project a shortfall of 10,000, over 10,000 doctors by 2030. Now we know from our statistics in Bangladesh that this is a big market for doctors. Most of the people who take the OET test in Bangladesh are doctors. Having said that, we're not just about deployment of nurses and doctors to other countries. We are also here to talk to you about capacity building in Bangladesh. So we're happy to have conversations here today about what we can do to help your capacity building here, how to improve communications in the workplace here so that there are less inefficiencies in the workplace, so that there are less accidents in the workplace. Recently, we attended a conference in India with hospitals in India, and one of the lead administrators of a Mumbai hospital told us that 27% of their accidents in the workplace were as a result of miscommunication. Can you imagine that? So this is people speaking the same language. So you can imagine that if you're coming from another country and going into an English-speaking environment, there's a lot of potential for miscommunication. So that's where OET is really important, that we are speaking the language of nurses, we are speaking the language of doctors, and English as that international language of healthcare. We can help you, even here in Bangladesh, with those communication issues. So we have an education team that can do in-house workshops on the skills and listening, reading, writing and speaking in a healthcare setting. We're happy to do that. So if you could go back one slide. Thank you. So I talked before about that employment bottleneck. There's no shortage of people who want to migrate overseas. And you can see here from the funnel, as you come down the funnel, there's less people who have the English that you need. And that's what OET is trying to do, to help people prepare to get to the bottom of that funnel, or even open up that funnel a little bit wider, so that people can be successful either in their own country or offshore. So we're looking for people to get to that advanced level, that near native level. And you know, there's no shortage of jobs because of those ageing populations, people moving out of the workforce post-COVID, and low migration rates to countries like Australia in the last 3 years. Thank you. We've also seen more roles coming out in nursing because of rules that have changed in Australia. So we had the Aged Care Royal Commission recently, and one of the recommendations was to have more nurses, or have compulsory nurses in aged care facilities. In the past we didn't have that. So you need to have a 24-hour nurse on site in aged care facilities, which was not compulsory previously. So a lot more opportunities in Australia for nurses. Thank you. We have governments incentivising people to come and work in Australia. So the state where I live, Victoria, offers a $10,000 incentive for healthcare professionals to come and work in metropolitan areas, $13,000 to work in a rural area. So there's real incentives for people to come to Australia. Thank you. In New Zealand, we see that nurses and doctors are now on the green list for migration. So that means that previously, in the past, you would have had to have worked for 2 years in order to obtain permanent residency. Now, because of the acute shortage of healthcare professionals, they are saying that from day one, you can achieve permanent residency. And OET is part of that journey. So in order to migrate to New Zealand, you do need to have the OET qualification to register there. But I guess the point I'm making is it all starts here in Bangladesh. If you'd like to move overseas, the jobs are there. We've got the preparation here. We've got the test here. We're here ready to help you. And to that end, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Regional Manager for South Asia, Ashish Bhushan, who will talk to you more about the test itself. So thank you very much.
That was very insightful. Can we move to the next slide? So I think thanks first of all to Tom and Shaheen, Tom definitely for taking us through the demand from the global market, but definitely before I move on to the next chapter, heartfelt thanks to Shaheen and Most, from the Australian department and also from EduCan for organizing this such a wonderful event. I think we have been looking forward to have this association for some time, because Bangladesh is a place wherein there are a lot of people, as Tom mentioned. It's not about the the supply crunch, but it's people at the right level. So before I move on to my topic, can someone tell me why do you think an English assessment, while there are a lot of English assessments already in the market, why do you think something like OET was required to be developed? design, as you mentioned, specifically for healthcare professions. And there has been, there has been a demand shortage. It's not about the supply shortage, but actually people at the right level. So while there are a lot of people who are being trained and graduating every year, and this is happening all across the source countries, India, Philippines, South Asia, most of the countries, we are source market. So there is a lot of supply there. But the challenge here is that, people or the people who are graduating and need to work in one of those countries has to be equivalent to native speaker. And that's one reason why OET was developed back in late 80s until it got acquired or came together with Cambridge Assessment English back in 2013, and then we had that JV which was formed through CBLA, Cambridge Boxer Language Assessment. So that's the organization which owns OET and which are the the owners of OET. So basically, if you look at OET has been designed and created for healthcare professionals. So the task, the question items that you look in the test, it is very much related to the domain of healthcare. So someone who would be, which I'll be talking further, will not feel that they have to study anything under the world. While the focus is, obviously getting into one of those countries, and OET becomes as a medium or as a bridge, it actually helps them to prepare for those set of examinations. So while language definitely is a barrier, OET tries and help them to, provide that support, because the content is very much within the healthcare domain. So the test has been developed by experts, and you would be surprised to hear that the developers are OET the same who also developed IELTS, because it's coming from the same umbrella, same parent, which is Cambridge Assessment. So Cambridge owns IELTS. Cambridge are also the major stake owners of OET through Cambridge Boxer Language Assessment. Can we move to the next slide? OET covers, under OET we cover about 12 healthcare professions. Definitely medicine, nursing are some of the top two, one of the top two professions, which are taken largely by most of the professions. It also depends upon the kind of demand that we are getting from the English speaking countries. Now, how a healthcare specific test is different, as you mentioned, as sir mentioned as well, the test is created for healthcare domain, which means, let's say for example, if you are doing a writing test in a general English assessment, you will be asked to write an email or an essay on a very general topic, and it could be anything under the sky. Someone could ask about global warming, or there could be questions, anything related to that sort. But here you'll be asked to write something very specific to your healthcare domain. Let's say if, for example, if you're a nurse, you'll be asked to write a referral letter to about, maybe could be a patient to another doctor or a colleague. So you will be given a situation, on the basis of that you have to write a letter. So that makes so convenient for a professional who doesn't have to worry about the entire world when they're preparing for this sort of a important examination, and the focus will be very much within their own domain. Similarly for doctors, let's say for example we are talking about speaking. Now speaking, we don't do the assessment, so the person who is sitting in front of you are not the examiners, they are the interlocutors. So they only facilitate the conversation. And the entire conversation is set up in the manner that you are talking to your patient. And when I say that there are 12 professions, the content of the examination is very much profession specific. So if you are a nurse, you'll be only given tasks related to nurse. If you're a doctor, the task will be given related to doctors. So that makes it a very unique and the only test which is available in the globe that provides that kind of a niche segment for healthcare professionals. So imagine how convenient it becomes for a healthcare professional when they're preparing for such an important thing for their career, and they get this kind of a support. So, so that's how it happens into speaking. So the entire, reading, listening, speaking, writing that we talk about, the entire content is related to healthcare domain. So while reading and listening remains same for all the 12 professions, writing and speaking are the only two subtests which differs or are specific to the profession, If you look at some of the examples, what we have mentioned here is what is required into OET, and this is very much related to the workplace communication skills, what a healthcare professional will be doing. Something, for example, reassuring someone who is anxious. That's the day-to-day job of healthcare professionals, a doctor or a nurse. To show empathy, to make them easy, talk in a manner. Similarly, translate a specialized register. Now, a doctor to doctor or doctor to nurse, it's very easy to understand their writing. But for a general person, it's so difficult. So this also helps them understand those level of communications. So all the content, covered in our all the 4 sub skills: reading, listening, speaking, writing. It is very much related to the domain itself. So which makes it much specific to the profession. Talking about what's in the test, as I mentioned earlier, we have 4 sub skills: listening, reading, speaking, and writing. Overall, if you look at the pattern of the examination is done in listening, reading, and writing. So that goes. Thank you. So that goes for about 2.5 hours. And then comes your speaking, which is done separately. So your reading, listening, writing is done in a paper-based mode or in a computer-based mode, but the speaking is done in a face-to-face manner. But if it's in a computer-based mode, then it's done via Zoom call or one of those online mediums. But looking at the content of the examination, the listening is divided in 3 parts, again related to different. I don't think even this is working. It's okay, you can change the slides from there. Sorry, technical issues. Yeah, and that's reading, which is there for about 60 minutes. It has, again, 3 parts, part A, B, and C. And then we have writing and speaking and writing. Speaking goes for about 20 to 25 minutes, and writing goes for about 40 minutes. Can we move to the next slide, please? So that's writing, and then there's a speaking. Can you move to the next? So that's become, now this is one of the most important parts. If you go to the next slide, please. So if you look at the score pattern or the score table, how it looks like, so largely if you look at the speaking, English speaking countries, their requirement is at a C1, which is almost equivalent to a native speaker. While what we have been doing or seeing in the market is most of our candidates or professions who are graduating from one of the health professions, the language is really sitting at a very lower level. So even if you see, we have done a comparative study with IELTS. A lot of people in the room would be aware about IELTS marking and all. So what is actually required is, let's say, for example, if you're talking about UK nursing, they are required to have 3B, which is listening, reading, and speaking should be B, which is equivalent to C1. And writing should be B2, which is equivalent to C+ on OET. So that's the band. It is almost equivalent to a native speaker. Similarly, let's say for a doctor will be required to have all 4 Bs. So doctor, obviously it becomes more important to that kind of a profession. So, they need to acquire those kind of language. And that's where, the importance of the test also comes in, because the next few slides I'm going to talk about how to prepare for the OET. Because while all of this looks very good and everyone wants to go there, the journey itself is, kind of, I would not say very hard, but if you are aware how to go on that journey and how to prepare for that, then a lot of things becomes easier. Otherwise, we have seen people attempting the test multiple times and still they have not been able to clear it. It's just for the simple reason that, as I mentioned earlier, OET is just a test which will only assess your language proficiency or level. Your aim is something else. You want to go further ahead, and English becomes one of the skills that you need to acquire. So as you would have acquired your professional skills through either studying medicine or nursing or whatever, even here you will have to spend an equal amount of time. So I think the first important task becomes is to understand where is your level. what is your current level, and then on the basis of that, you will be able to do your preparation. But what we have seen is, there's also a lot of misconception which we have seen in the market is, people from the healthcare background, once they come to know about OET, they feel that, okay, it is within the profession, so without preparing, they'll just go and sit for the examination, and then they may not be able to get the required score. So our recommendation is always there, because it's a high-level, high-stake assessment, and you need to prove your proficiency at a higher level. A preparation is really must. And that is something which we are also trying to do with our preparation providers or training partners here in Bangladesh, to see how that support can be offered even through EduCan or other prep providers. As I think Tom already mentioned about the acceptance of OET. So we are accepted in most of the English-speaking countries for a lot of healthcare professions. Nursing medicine becomes the top ones. And starting from UK, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, US, Canada, some of my next slides will show you. So these are some 20 states in United States that accepts OET, and similarly in Canada, it's accepted by the by the medical board there. We are still working on the nursing, but these are some of the countries, some of the states which accepts OET. Again, if you look at, these are the regulatory boards. The good part is that a lot of these countries, their immigration body also accepts OET, which means you don't have to take another language test just for the, for the immigration purpose. So if you just take OET, that solves the entire, requirement. Now, that's the most important part. I think, it's always good to understand that, yes, while OET is there and you need to prove your proficiencies at a certain level, how do you actually prepare for it? So what we'll be talking about, is so there are our website is very easy. I think one of the easiest one is just oet.com. The moment you go on that website, there's a section for Learn, and you click on that tab, you will get a whole lot of options. So we have options like study guides. We have made videos for every subtest. There are a lot of, free study materials which are available on the website. Paid materials are also there. We also have list of preparation providers across the globe. And I think that's one of the very important things, while, a lot of people out in the market, they would be preparing for OET. That's a very incredible list, because to get an OET preparation provider or authorization, there's no fees that is required, which means that by paying a fees, you cannot become an accredited OET preparation provider. So which means that, also means that you will have to actually prove the teachers will have to prove their, teaching qualifications, and then they are given a task which they'll go through a particular time. So they have to do lesson plans, create their own curriculum in all the sub-skills, and then create the content, which is then evaluated and validated by the OET education team in Australia. So the process is a bit stringent, so it's not that everyone will be able to achieve it. Just to give you a small example, India as a big country itself, we only have about 14 of those preparation providers, while there would be hundreds and thousands of language training schools. In Bangladesh, we currently don't have one, but the idea is that in the coming days we add more preparation providers in the country, so that they can be listed on the OET website, and people from the Bangladesh region, if they want to reach out to one of those preparation providers, they can definitely reach out to them. So as I mentioned, there are a wide range of materials available: sample test, test taking tips, free intro to OET course, regular Q&A sessions. I think the regular Q&A sessions are very important. Those are done every fortnight on our Facebook social media channels, and these are again done by our education experts from Australia. And there are candidates, a lot of people who join there to clear their doubts. So it's a kind of an open forum, and people actually go there and ask a lot of these questions about preparation, about what scores are accepted. Those are really helpful sessions, and if someone would want to attend, I would recommend, if you want to know more about OET, definitely go and attend one of those sessions. You'll also see what kind of candidates are coming, what are kind of questions are coming, and accordingly, if you're interested into work, towards OET on the preparation side, you can see the market, requirements and the demands that's coming. I think I already spoke about the study guide. So this is something which is available. It's free downloadable. All you'll have to do is just go on the OET website. So along with the study guide for the students, we also have teacher resource book. So all the teachers, trainers who are sitting here doing preparation for other exams, they can go and have a look to the teacher resource book. And if you would want to get any support on that side, we'll be more than happy to support and provide you any Q&A sessions there. Now, remember I was talking about the levels, and you need to prove your level, your proficiency at a certain, near native score. Now, how to actually know that what is your current level? Now, OET has created a diagnostic assessment which is called OET Pulse, and this is a very short test. It just takes about 30 minutes. It's an online test. All you'll have to do, any candidate or anyone who would want to see that what is the current level, just go on the OET website, book this test. It doesn't cost you a lot, it's just $30. And this test will actually, within 30 minutes, it will tell you about your reading, listening, and use of grammar. What is your current proficiency? And it will also suggest, tell you that on the basis of your score, what kind of courses or how, the intervention that is required for you to undergo if you want to prove your language proficiency at a C1 or let's say B and C+ level on OET. So it's very useful, very helpful test for anyone who would want to prepare for the OET examination. There's other slide that we have shown. I mean, obviously it purely depends on to the time and hour, number of hours it takes. I think the language trainers here in the room would agree with me that people who would want to move from one CFR level to another CFR level, it takes about 200 to 250 hours of language intervention. And that's what it is shown. So if you look at on your left-hand side, there's a OET D, C, and B. Now D is somewhere over B1, C is again B2, and B is your C1. Similarly, time is, you'll have to spend more time. So let's say, for example, if someone who is at a B1 level and would want to go at a C1 level, they'll have to spend about 400 to 600 hours, 600 to 800 hours of, because there are already 2 levels in between. So that's the amount of time they will have to, spend, and it has to be a kind of a staggered learning as well. So you can't spend everything, but it also depends on how much time a candidate can give, and because they may be already working and all that. So as I said in my previous slide about OET Pulse, that's a really good test, a diagnostic assessment, which can give them a clear understanding about the level, and accordingly they can go for the preparation. Okay. Talking about Bangladesh, here in Dhaka, we have 3 test venues now available. I'm so glad to, obviously we are going to do an official launch in a short time, but then glad to let you know that now earlier we only had 1 paper-based and 1 computer-based. Now we'll have 2 paper-based and 1 computer-based test venue. And as I mentioned earlier, OET is delivered on paper and computer as well. In a current structure, obviously we are planning to reach out, make OET available in more parts of Bangladesh so that candidates don't have to travel very far. They'll be able to access the OET assessments nearby itself. And again, our another mission is also to build the network of our preparation providers, OET authorized training partners, who will then be, who will then be kind of work with us and can do the preparation as well. Yeah. So I think that brings to the end of my slide. Thank you so much for being such a patient listener, and once again, thanks a lot to EduCan team and Austrade, for supporting this entire event, and to all of you for spending your time here. And we look forward to working very closely with you. Thank you.
I would now request Mr. Duncan McCullough, Second Secretary and Head of Economic, Department, Austrian High Commission, to share a few words with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Duncan McCullough.
Mr. Shaheen Reza and the EduCan International team, Tom Keenan and Ashish Bhushan from OET, a colleague from Austrade, Mr. Mostafiza Rahman, distinguished guests from the health industry, print and electronic media, public and private medical colleges. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you all. It's my pleasure to be here today representing the Australian High Commission at the launch of this new partnership between OET and EduCan International Dhaka. And I really appreciate the opportunity to say a few words. Australia and Bangladesh have a long history of working together in the education and skills development sector. Education and skills development has been and will continue to be an important part of the relationship between our two countries. This is because we appreciate that continued education and skills development is vital for a nation's economic growth and prosperity, lifting people out of poverty and providing better income earning opportunities. Australia is proud to continue to provide funding through our development program to BRAC and USEP, for example, as part of our long-standing development program to help extremely poor children, especially girls, children with disabilities, to access quality basic education. In higher education, we've provided more than 3,000 Australia Award scholarships and short courses to Bangladeshis over the years to build essential human capabilities in priority sectors across the government, the private sector, academia, civil society, and other organisations. Also, we recognise that there is great potential beyond our development program for opportunities for collaborating between educational institutions and organisations, such as in research, in-country study centres, school curriculum standards, and other innovative arrangements. Importantly, we see these opportunities growing for both Australia and Bangladesh, particularly as demand increases for higher education and skills in Bangladesh's fast-paced growing economy. For example, more than 8,000 Bangladeshis have applied to study in Australia's educational institutions in 2022 alone, making Australia one of the most popular English language destinations for Bangladeshis to study overseas. In the last 2 years, 2 Australian university colleges have set up partnerships with local institutions, offering foundational and diploma courses in business and IT. And the West Australian School Curriculum and Standards Authority, for example, has partnered with private schools in Bangladesh to offer Western Australian Certificate of Education. So these are great examples of Australian and Bangladeshi educational institutions providing opportunities for people right here in Bangladesh to gain qualifications from Australian institutions. And now OET, one of the leading providers of healthcare English communication, is partnering with EduCan International Dhaka to offer courses and assessments for healthcare-specific English language skills. We believe this will help internationally trained healthcare professionals to obtain workplace-specific communication skills, provide safe and quality care in English-speaking environments, and to be accepted for professional licensure and to practice in Australia and other countries. Australia's healthcare sector is an exciting place to be and to work. It's home to some of the world's leading scientists, medical researchers, clinicians, and researchers. Innovation has always been a key feature of our system, and Australia has a long history of achievement in health and medical research, such as cochlear implants, cervical cancer vaccines, ultrasound scanning equipment, sleep apnea, and many more other types of developments. So Australia's excellent research facilities and world-class scientists and our strong but flexible regulatory regime have made Australia a powerhouse of healthcare and innovation. And we've heard about the demand for healthcare workers at all levels within the system in Australia and other countries for that matter. So we're pleased to see that more Australian institutions such as OET are forming linkages with local institutions like EduCan International to be able to deliver programs that help facilitate growth in the entire healthcare industry, not just in Australia, but also here and hopefully in Bangladesh. And we'd really like to see more of these sorts of partnerships develop in the future, and we've heard also about some of the exciting things that the test can do for people as part of their broader career development. So in conclusion, I'd just like to congratulate OET and EduCan International on their new partnership. I'd like to thank my colleague from Austrade, Mostafiz, for doing so much hard work as well to help facilitate the partnership here today. And I wish all the partners every success in implementing and growing this partnership over the coming years. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Duncan, for your lovely words. Today's event is organized by EduCan International to launch itself as an official test venue of OET in the education industry, as it will open a new path for the Bangladeshi healthcare professionals to excel in global healthcare sector, and we are proud to have you all with us at this auspicious moment. Now request Mr. Mostafizur Rahman, Director Austrade, Australian High Commission, to share a few words with us as well.
Thank you. I'll be very quick because I can smell the food served just now, and I know you all are very tired, but I don't want to miss the opportunity to thank all of you to coming here today. So big applause for everyone to coming here, especially the media. Thank you very much for coming. I know how busy you were last couple of days because of the tents happening on the street. So thank you very much, and I would like to thank my colleague Duncan. I know how busy he is. He's about to fly back to Australia, but he accepted to come here. I'm sorry that our High Commissioner and the acting Deputy High Commissioner couldn't make it because of their other priority, and also the Health Minister and then the Environment Minister couldn't come because of some other issues. So, but you all made it. So thank you very much for this, and would like to looking forward to have more close relationship. And EduCan, good luck with the OET Australia, and I'm happy to support OET and anything in future in terms of to build a relationship in area of education. We're happy to support. Thank you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mostafizur Rahman. We have almost come to the end of our program, and I hope you have enjoyed the moments you have spent with us. Without your presence, we don't have been a possible thing. Now I'd request Mr. Duncan and Mr. Tom Keenan to signature the inauguration board. Thank you so much, sir. Now I request Mr. Duncan McCullough to declare the official launch of EduCan International as an official test venue.
Very happy to declare that you're an international test venue. Well, it's my pleasure to declare the partnership agreement signed, and congratulations to EduCan International on becoming a test centre for OET. Well done. Congratulations.
Now I would request all of our honorable guests to come up on stage. Mr. Shahin Reza is going to hand over the crest to Mr. Duncan McCullough, Second Secretary and Head of Economic Department, Australian High Commission. Mr. Shahin Reza is handing over a crest to Mr. Tom Keenan, Regional Director, OET. Our Managing Director, Mr. Shahin Reza, handing over the crest to Mr. Ashish Bhushan, Regional Manager, South Asia, OET. Yeah, we are going to hand over a little bouquet of honor to Mr. Mostafizur Rahman. Thank you all. Yeah, I would request all of our honorable guests to remain on stage for a photo session, please.
Audio Jungle.